think it depends. It depends on what we see over these next 2 years because AJ seems to be in probably the best run of form he's been on in a very, very long time. He's keeping active. He's got better with every fight. When we look at the Franklin fight to the performance against Ngannou, you can see that he's starting to find that confidence in himself. He seemed a little bit gun shy in the Franklin fight, gun shy in the other ones. But as he's come through, I think the real fight that's shown that he had this confidence and the killer backing him was the Otto Wallin fight. I think if he wins a world title again, I don't think we'll see 6 fights in 2 years because I think that's one of the biggest things that can not kill off a career, but kill off activity is when you hold a world title because it's not like AJ can just go and say, I want to fight this guy. I want to fight this guy. You've got to see what the governing bodies are saying, what the commissions are saying. But I think, obviously, I know the plan is to win another world title. If he goes undisputed and gets the undisputed fight against the winner of Fury Usyk, then I highly doubt we'll see the 6 fights. But on the whole, I think he could go on past 37 because he still seems to be in great shape. He's a proper professional. He lives the life. He's always in the gym. I think he could go on a lot long, not a lot longer than 37, but when you think only 2 years left, 2 years isn't a great amount of time. Then again, AJ has been in the sport for a long time, though. I think by 37, he would have been in the sport for 19, 20 years, probably just shy of 20 years. But ultimately, it all just comes down to how his body's holding up. Obviously, there's all the talks of him maybe not being able to take a punch. But again, you just got to wait and see. I don't believe we'll see 6 fights in 2 years because this year, if he fights, let's say, September and wins a world title in his next fight, because that's what Eddie Hearn's been saying. He's been saying the world title's next for AJ. If we see him win the world title in September, I think it'll only be the 2 fights this year. I don't think we'll see him fight in November or December, especially if he fights a worthy opponent like a Hrgovic or even the Fury Usyk winner. I don't think we'll see a 3rd fight this year. And I think we'd probably see him again about March, April next year. So we're not sure. But on the whole, I do think he'll go on longer than 37, but I don't think we'll see these 6 fights in 2 years, no.
Yeah, so it's quite interesting because some of the cynical or maybe, that kind of cynic point of view will kind of say that with some of the recent fights he's had, sure, he's been bouncing back and looking to resurge back from the losses to Alexander Usyk, which were quite damaging for him, especially with the way he handled the Usyk loss the second time around in Jeddah. I was there ringside. Remember when he grabbed that mic, but we'll talk more about that later on in the episode. But yeah, the bounces back from there. Jermaine Franklin was a tough fight. He's probably given him his toughest test since that fight. Then back to Helenius, which was supposed to be Dillian Whyte, wasn't it? But Whyte had to drop out for his own reasons. Whyte now coming back into contention. Maybe they'll look to pursue a Whyte fight in the future. Otto Wallin was someone he spent numerous rounds with, and he had kind of a blueprint from that, and as well had now moved over to Ben Davison as well, full time it seems, and then to Francis Ngannou, who gave Fury an incredible fight, knocked down Fury as well too, as we'll famously remember throughout the years. That will grow and grow, that legacy and that moment will do, but not really a seasoned pro in the form of Francis Ngannou, at least not in the boxing ring, more so in the MMA ring. So for a lot of people, contention, and whilst that works for him right now, maybe that's one eye as to being that foot out of the game in that sort of sense, because they don't want to take damage or any further damage where they can manage this point across all of boxing, maybe just outshine slightly by Fury in the heavyweight division, but depends what metric you're looking at. In a commercial sense, probably would be Joshua, who kind of leads that way with all the sponsorship deals and such, which we won't go into now. But it feels like, from a point of view where you can see this timeline being more cemented in that point of view, that there wouldn't be 2 years left, because they're looking to manage these moments, whether it's 3 fights this year, 3 fights last year. Look at the opponents that's he's up in against, and with the fact as well too that it seems to be right now it's not going to be AJ contesting for the belt straight away, even though even though Hearn seems to say that's the case. The whispers right now are that Hrgovic and Dubois are going to contest, and then the winner will then fight AJ. Why is it not AJ fighting Hrgovic straight away? That's what kind of confuses me. So that's what kind of adds credence to me to as to why there might be this timeline up on AJ. But I think there is the likelihood of leaving quite a bit on the table for the 34-year-old now, who would be 36 coming out of it. Not really miles out of his prime by any means. But like you said, there are a lot of miles on the clock, maybe, for having been in in boxing for a long time. But I want to talk about some of the fights that we want to see Joshua in. If you could pick one fight in these 6 fights to make, Josh, what fight would you want to see?
It's got to be the obvious one, Fury versus Joshua. I'm not going to try and make myself sound like Eddie Hearn or Frank Warren here, but it is the biggest fight in the sport, I think, especially in British boxing. It's a fight that we were so close to getting a couple of years ago. And it's just that there's always been that argument of who's the best heavyweight. Is it Fury or is it AJ? And I think that the only way to find out is for them to fight. I think it's a fight that sells out Wembley with ease. At this current time, you'd probably see the fight land in Saudi, which it's not ideal, but I think we're at the stage where we know that both Fury or AJ don't have long left, and we just want to see the fight. So if I was to pick any fight in these next 6 fights, it would be Fury AJ without a doubt.
Let's go to some of the comments in the chat. Going by some of these comments, let me just remove this out of the way. We got See Ya from Brackets the Policeman. Good to see you. Demond Hickman says, I can respect it. AJ brought back boxing, him and Wilder. That's why I'm mad that they never fought each other. Shake my head. That's another option as well, too. We've got option for being another. Maybe it should be cemented as Wilder. I know that, of course, as well. White has umbrage to the defeat that he suffered as well in the pros, had got one win over AJ in the amateurs, but that's a big fight that we've been missing out on. If we get Fury, we don't get Wilder, and that was the big 2 fights at the time. And I know that Fury was out of the picture for a while, being out of shape and dealing with his own issues, but for a long time Joshua and Wilder was the fight, and that might be one that falls by the wayside if the 6-fight plan or this 2-year plan is to be adhered by. The truth, let's hear some truth from the truth. I think AJ also needs to rest. All the criticism from pundits, fans in the media, doing interviews, fights not being made because of either party is not wanting it to sign because of money disputes and so on. I get the point about the rest, and I get the point about criticism from pundits. Sometimes the criticism is warranted. Sometimes it's natural for it to happen, but it does feel like whatever Anti-Joshua does, someone is on something or someone is on the other side of the fence when it comes to whatever comment he makes. And I feel like sometimes that is very unfair. I know that I'm kind of being broad and quite vague with that answer, but I do feel that at moments, certain times with AJ's career, he's kind of being unfairly heaped upon as well.